The next aspect of prizability I'm going to discuss is probably the most important aspect. And I'd say if you get this aspect down, your success with women is going to soar. But I'm not just going to tell you what it is outright. I'm going to build up to it through a story. Years ago, I was traveling in Brazil with a bunch of buddies of mine. And as our trip came to a close, a buddy of mine and I decided, you know what, we don't want to go back to the States. So we ended up going to Costa Rica on a whim. Knew nothing about it. Landed in the capital, San Jose. Told our cab driver to take us to the nearest hotel. He took us to the Hotel Del Rey. Seemed like a really nice hotel. Put our bags in our hotel room. Went down to the hotel bar. I think I ordered like a rum and coke or something. Started bantering with these girls. And after a little bit, one of the girls said to me, "Te gusta?" And I said, "Me gusta." And she said, "How much you pay for me?" And I thought to myself, how much am I willing to pay her? And then I came to my senses and realized that I'm too cheap to pay for sex, and sex is too readily available in Costa Rica. But I found it fascinating that she almost sucked me into her reality. And as our trip progressed, I talked to a lot of guys who'd had similar situations, except they ended up getting suckered into paying for sex. And these guys claimed that from the get-go they had never intended to pay these women for sex, but somehow they got sucked into it. And maybe this is bullshit. Maybe they did intend to sleep with these women from the get-go. They intended to pay them money. I don't know. But I did know that these girls were up to something, and I figured out what it was. I noticed that they would define all of the behaviors and actions of the guys as meaning that they thought the girls were pretty, that they wanted to be with girls, and somehow that implied that they were willing to pay them money for sex. I thought this was brilliant. So I started doing it back on the girls. I told them that I'm a male gigolo in my country and that they can touch me, but they're going to have to pay me money for it. And to say the least, some really interesting things happened that I'm not going to get into in this course. But what I discovered from this trip is that in every male-female interaction, all of the guys' behaviors and actions, all of the girls' behaviors and actions have an underlying meaning to them. And this is what I call a frame. And that in every male-female interaction, there's an overall underlying meaning to the interaction. And that's what I call the metaframe. The metaframe is kind of like the big frame that all the small frames fit inside of. And every frame implies the metaframe. Let's look at an example of this. Imagine a guy is in a bar, spots a really hot girl, thinks to himself, bouncy, bouncy, walks up to her, says to her, "You are just so beautiful." Chats to her for a bit, and then she smugly looks at him and says, "Go get me an apple martini." So he goes and gets her the drink she wants. He actually thinks he's winning points with her. Now imagine another guy, same bar, same girl, walks up to her, chats her up for a little bit. She says to him, "Go get me an apple martini." And he kind of chuckles, says, "Is that your best pickup line?" Now I'm willing to bet the first guy doesn't have a chance in hell, unless she's maybe an escort or something. He doesn't have a chance in hell of scoring with her. The second guy has got a chance, and let's look at why. By the first guy rewarding her bad behavior by him getting her a drink, he's setting the frame that he's no better than a battered woman. That he's basically the big passive bottom to her verbal gangbang. He's got no backbone. And this is implying the metaframe that she is the prize he is trying to win over. Now with the second guy, by him interpreting or setting the frame, setting the underlying meaning of her saying, "Buy me a drink," is meaning that it's a pickup line, that she's trying to impress him. He's setting the metaframe that he is the prize she is trying to win over. Now she may or may not get sucked into this reality, but at the very least, he's letting her know that he's unwilling to go into her reality, and that he's a prize and she needs to deal with it. And for that, he's better off.